Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show for you guys that we definitely want you guys to stick around for. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, this particular episode, I'm sure is going to stir up a lot of conversation on the channel, but that's what sports is all about, so we got to do it. Now, as y'all know, Kobe Bryant is my favorite player of all time. I think he is, one of the most skilled players to ever play the sport. But I always concede that Michael Jordan was the greatest player of all time. And I also believe that MJ was the greatest offensive player. Now, some people will say it's Wilt, some people will say it's Kareem, some people will say it's others. To me, I think it's Michael Jordan. And if you take a closer look at his resume and some of his numbers, he has a lot of evidence to support the notion of you believing that Michael Jordan is the greatest offensive weapon the NBA has ever seen, right? Has ever seen. Now, one of the issues with this current era that we find ourselves in as NBA fans is this era seems to be all about offense. No one is playing defense. Nobody's interested in playing defense. And you're seeing all type of crazy numbers being put up, in this particular era. I think this season we've already had two guys that have scored 70. Two guys that have scored 70. Like, it's ludicrous. We can't even count the amount of 40-point games that we've seen this season. And some people believe that the reason that they're seeing this is because guys are just so skilled, when in reality, the only reason they're seeing this is because how the game is being played today. Which brings me to Paul George. Paul George was recently on the show, I believe is the Playoff P podcast or the Paul George podcast or something like that. I don't know if he owns it or whatever. He was on there. And he was talking about a range of things, about load management, a whole bunch of things. LeBron, this one, that one, whatever. And it got to the point in the interview when they were asking him about his thoughts on this era in terms of, how easy it is to score in this NBA game. And what he said, I believe, absolutely proves that if Michael Jordan played today, he would easily dominate this current NBA. But before we get into his comments, this video is brought to you by sponsor Aura, who's also the official sponsor of the T-Wolf. Do you know what the fastest growing crime in America is today? It's identity theft. Imagine trying to log into your email only to see that your password has been changed. Then you start getting weird notifications from your bank and credit cards, only to find out that all of your personal and sensitive information has been totally compromised. If you think it can happen to you and your family, just know that in 2020, over 49 million Americans were victims to identity theft, costing them a combined $56 billion. That is why we are excited to partner with Aura, who's the sponsor of this video. Aura is the #1 identity theft and financial fraud protection. Aura monitors the dark web and alerts you if any of your passwords and accounts have been breached. And funny enough, after using Aura, I discovered some of my credentials were floating around in the dark web, and the app showed me exactly when and where the breach happened. In addition, Aura allows you to set spending alerts, and they'll notify you of any suspicious transactions. Aura is 4 times faster than any of its competitors in alerting you if someone is trying to open a credit card or obtain a loan using your name. And remember this, every 14 seconds, someone becomes a victim of identity fraud. Don't let it happen to you. Now click the link in the description and try Aura for free for 2 weeks and see if any of you or your family's personal information has been compromised. Start your free trial at aura.com/dreamerspro. And when you try Aura, by using the link in the description below, also know that you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So what we want to do is we want to play what Paul George had to say here, and then we're going to really get into this topic here. So take a listen to what Paul George had to say, then we'll come back and react to it. Take a listen to that.
13 years you've been in the NBA now. And we touched on it a little bit, but just how much the game has changed. And there's been a huge scoring implosion. And 10 years ago, there was only 10 or 11 guys that were averaging more than 20 points a game. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you look at right now, what guys are doing scoring wise, there's around 40 to, it's like 40. There's 40 guys in the league right now averaging over 20 points a game. Is that just because guys are getting more skilled? Is it now the 3-point line? It's a completely different game now. But what would you attribute that to?
Yeah, it's a different game. It's a different game. Early on, when my first couple years in the league, like, you might get 60, 70 possessions offensively. You know what I mean? Like, and the offense was ran through like your best player. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Obviously. And within that, like it was continuity within the offense. So like each possession was like a little longer. You had two bigs out there. So the game wasn't fast. It was a half court set game. So it just wasn't a lot of baskets to be gotten, to be honest. Whereas now, like there's maybe 6-7 guys on the team that's shooting 5-6 threes. Whereas back then it was 3 guys maybe get to shoot 5 or more threes. Like it wasn't that many shots. And then now you're getting 80, 90 possessions opposed to like 60, 70 possessions, you know?
Yeah. It's I think the rule changes, at least for me, like hand checking and stuff. Like when we grew up, you could put a hand on the guy and kind of guide him, and that's
a foul now.
That's how I was able to play defense.
And with that, like guys have gotten smart to be able to draw fouls, get to the free throw line. I mean that's another stat. I'm pretty sure is like the free throw attempts like is at an all-time high. Like it's killing the game a little bit. I miss like being able to be like. Now we can't be defenders. You know what I mean? You can't defend as well as we used to. You can get in the ball and pick and rolls. Like you can be aggressive. You can be physical.
Can't do none of that.
You can't do none of that now. The offensive player has the advantage.
Michael Jordan, for those of you who don't know, still holds the highest regular season scoring record, I believe, in the last 30 years. James Harden was one that he scored 36.1 points per game, and I believe in a season. Kobe Bryant scored 35.4 points per game in a season. And Michael Jordan averaged in an NBA season, whether you want to believe it or not, in an NBA season in 1987 season, Michael Jordan averaged 37.1 points per game on 42%. On what? What did he shoot from the field? On what did Jordan shoot from the field that year? He scored on 48.2% shooting from the field. MJ to this day still holds the highest playoff scoring average with over 33 points a game. That's the guy's playoff average. He also holds the highest regular season scoring average, which is also higher than Wilt Chamberlain, who was an offensive machine. Jordan still holds that record along with his 10 scoring titles. But here's the reason why I think Jordan would easily dominate this era based on some of the things that Paul George had to say. Number one, he spoke about the number of possessions. That before they used to be about 60, 70 possessions. Now you're up to 80, 90 possessions. So in this current NBA, there are more possessions. You also have to look at the pace of the game has sped up. Then you now have to factor in the type of player, the player profile that Michael Jordan had. Michael Jordan was one of the best players at attacking the basketball, at attacking the rim in NBA history. If you want to see some of the most spectacular, you think Kyrie Irving has some incredible finishes, you need to go watch some of Jordan's highlights of him finishing around the rim. It's unlike anything you have ever seen in your life, man. This is coming from a Kobe Bryant. It is unlike anything you have ever seen in your life. There's nobody I've seen that can finish around the rim the way it was just, I mean, at certain points you ask yourself, is this a human being that's doing these things? Like to this day, after watching him, I really wonder, could that dude actually levitate? Like, could he fly? It was just incredible. So Jordan at the time was getting the majority of his points within, under the 3-point line, basically. Another thing worth considering is that the guy averaged 37 points in a season, taking less than 0.8 3-point attempts for the entire year. And he put up think about that. He put up 37 points in an NBA season with averaging less than 1 3-point shot per game. That's unheard of. In the 1986, what is it? Let me pull up the season here. Michael Jordan made 3 3-pointers that season. 3. It says he attempted here 18. He barely attempted any. So imagine if he was playing in this particular NBA where you no longer have to play 2 7-footers. The lane is wide open. You cannot hand check. He would easily average 40 points. I believe he would easily do it.